Hello students, today's topic is Introduction to Control Systems. To start with, let me explain what is a system. A system is something which does some work for us. In other words, a system is one which makes our work easier. And a system is always said to consist of certain number of components, and those components will be always arranged in a particular order. So the practical example of a system is we can consider a fan, mixie, washing machine, AC, etc. etc. The household equipments, each and everything which we use in our day-to-day life is a best example for a system. And systems are broadly classified into two types. One is known as open loop system and another one is known as a closed loop system. So there is a huge difference between an open loop system and a closed loop system. An open loop system is one which always gives some output. That's it. That is, the output is not stable. In other words, the output is said to be varying. Whereas in the case of a closed loop system, the output is always stable. In other words, the output is always said to be accurate. So consider a practical example like an iron box which was used some 20 years before. So in olden days, the iron boxes have no thermal limit. Whenever the temperature exceeds beyond a particular value, it will create some damage to our clothes. Whereas the iron box which we are using in our day-to-day life has a temperature sensor, that is, it has a temperature limit. Whenever the temperature exceeds beyond a particular value, it goes automatically off. In other words, it limits the temperature between, that is, it has a temperature maintenance. So now I am going to draw a block diagram of an open loop and a closed loop system. So the first one is open loop and second one is closed loop. So the first one is system, and to the system there is an input and there is an output. Regarding a closed loop system, again I am going to have the same system but with some extra components. So here this is a system, and again there is a feedback element. The output of this feedback element is given to an error detector. And this output is given to a controller. And finally the controller output is again given back to the system. And here is the output, and again here is the input or reference point, reference signal. So here in this case, there is a system. Whatever may be the type of input given to the system, it will give some output. Here the same system is provided with some adjustments, that is, the output of this closed loop system is given to a feedback element and the output of this feedback element is given to an error detector. Here the output from the feedback element is compared with the input sample signal, and either the two signals either will get added or get subtracted depending upon the value. Either this may be a plus or minus, both is eligible here. Then the output from the error detector is given to the controller, and from the controller again it is given to the system, and finally the output from the system is accurate or stable or a predetermined value. That is, the value which is known to us we will get as output. So now let us see the difference between an open loop and a closed loop system. So here in this case, the first one is the output of the system is inaccurate, and here in this case the output of the system is accurate. Here the construction is easy. Here the construction is little bit complex. Here number of components required is less. Here number of components required is more. Automatically the cost is high. Here in this case the cost is cost is low, here the cost is high, and the last one is stability. This is said to be more stable and this is said to be less stable. So let me explain. Regarding an open loop system, whatever may be the type of input, okay, it will give some output. For example, again consider the same iron box here. For example, instead of giving a standard value of 230, either it may be 210 volt or it may be 240 volt, it will give the output in terms of heat according to the type of input which we are given. That is, for example, if 210 volt is given, it will produce some heat, or even if 240 is given, it will produce some heat accordingly. Whereas in the case of closed loop system, again we are considering the same iron box here, but the output of the system is now compared, that is given to a feedback element, and this feedback element output is given to an error detector, and this error detector compares with the input value, that is reference value to the signal which we got. If there is any difference, it gets adjusted by means of a controller, and finally this controller forces the system or adjusts the system to produce a standard output or a stable output. So here the system output is said to be inaccurate, or in other words it is a varying one, whereas here the output of a closed loop system is more accurate. And the second one is, as from the diagram it is clear that the number of components required will be less here and number of components required will be more. So here the construction is easy and here the construction is bit tough. And finally again cost is low, there the cost is high. And here the system is said to be more stable because whatever may be the type of input we are giving, it will give some output or it will produce some output. Whereas in the case of closed loop system, the stability is always said to be less when compared to the open loop system, because the sensitivity of the closed loop system is comparatively higher when compared to that of an open loop system. So in this video we have discussed about what is a system. A system is something which does some work. It will have some components. Those components should have to be arranged in a particular order. For example, initially there should be switch, and from switch it is connected to conductors, and from conductor we are connecting to a iron box, fan or whatever may be. I am just telling the outer frame. If we go interior, even in fan we will be having certain amount of parts like stator, rotor, etc. So the systems are broadly classified into open loop and closed loop. The open loop system is generally a system, whereas closed loop system is known as a control system, because in our day-to-day life we always want a stable output or a desired output. And here we are listing out the difference between an open loop system and a closed loop system. So just now as we seen, right, these are all the differences between open loop and closed loop. The best practical example of a closed loop system is whatever system that comes with the term automatic, that is automatic on-off controller of a motor, automatic irrigation system, automatic temperature adjustment system, everything is the best example for control systems. Thank you.